Okay, so now that we've discussed what the equation of any circle is going to be, we are going to write the equation of a circle given a graph of a circle. And we have a graph over here. They've told us the center point, we'll call that C, is located at 0, 4. I don't know why my C is moving, but it did, so we'll just rewrite it here. And we also, but we don't know the radius right offhand. But that's important information. So let's kind of jot some of that over here in the margin just to save some space. Our center point is 0, 4. And from above, we know that the center point of any circle is going to be based on the values of h and k. We don't have a radius given, but we do see that the circle is actually lying directly on this point. We also have the known point at 0, 7. And so we can just sort of count from the center, right? We know that the distance from the center to any point on the circle is considered our radius. So we will just count from the center to the circle, either going right to left, up and down, left to right, etc. So from the center, we've got 1, 2, 3 units over. So we've got ourselves a radius of 3 for our circle. So we'll write that over here on the side. And now it's just a matter of filling in some information. So let's go ahead and rewrite the equation of a circle. That's always going to be your step to kind of do a dump and run, right? We need to do some erase replace and put some information in to the right locations to make this look pretty. All right, so let's start, and I'll do a little color coding here. All right, we want to first get our h value in. We've got our h value, as you can see over here, as 0. So I'm going to start rewriting my circle equation with the information I've got. So I'm going to do x minus a 0, that's squared, plus for our k value, we've got, let's see here, here's the k is what we're looking for, and the k value is the y coordinate of the center. So we'll continue writing y minus, in this case it's a 4, squared is equal to, and back to some colors, we've got a 3 as our radius, and here's the radius here, so we're just going to dump that 3 over here where the r is. Don't forget, we've got to square it, okay? It's not just the r, it's not the whole thing is an r squared. We've got to make sure we square that. Now we've got very close to what the final answer is going to be, but we need to clean this up a little bit because we've got this 0 sort of hanging out, and we really want to make that prettier. Okay, so when we're going to bring this down, we know that x minus 0 is nothing more than x. Okay, so when I show that or clean it up, I'm just going to get rid of my 0 and make this whole process x squared or expression x squared. Plus, we've got our y minus 4 squared, and we'll just leave that guy exactly the way he looks because there's no real cleanup to do. 3 squared, however, I'm going to change that to 9 because I know that 3 squared is equal to 9. And so when you're asked the question, as this example shows, to write the equation of a circle given a graph as such, okay, this is the final answer, like right here. I get students that go, well, what do I do now? Well, I need to solve for x, or I need to solve for y. That is not what we're doing. The goal is to just put it into this pretty happy expression or equation for in a circle. And there goes my C down here. All right, so we have a U-try over here. I want you to do the same type of process. Make sure you notate what your center point is. Determine what the radius is. And go ahead and try that and pause the video and check out your work. Okay, so you should have gotten the equation of the circle shown over here on the right as x minus 2 squared plus y minus 1 squared is equal to 4. And if you didn't get that, raise your hand and we'll be glad to take a look. All right, let's go to the back of the page. And we've got a couple more examples. Let me just kind of close this out and do this one by one. All right, now that we've got a situation where it says, again, write the equation of a circle. We've got the fact that our circle has a center point of 3, negative 4. So we'll just put that over here on the side to help us out. And then what we don't have is an absolute point value. Okay, you know, on our first couple of examples, we could just tick off from the center over to a point on the circle. But you can't see anywhere on this circle. This might be close to it, but you're still not actually being able to walk directly, right, and actually tick off from square to square what your radius is. Now, the good part is there's a radius here that I drew, but in addition, we have a radius from the center to this point they've given us. And I'll just rewrite that. That's 0, -6. So we fortunately have a tool we have used over and over in our geometry life called the distance formula. We know that the radius is the distance from the center to a point on a circle. And since we have those 2 points, what we're going to do is use the distance formula to determine what the radius is going to be. All right, so we're going to do that. I'm going to do that over here in the margin. Again, we've got our, we'll call it R because that's exactly what that's going to give to us. And we'll put our distance formula over here. Let me just put an R over here. And we're going to do x minus x. So we'll do 3 minus 0 squared plus, we've got a -4 minus a -6 squared. And when we put that in your calculator, most of the time I tell you guys when you're doing distance to just round it to the nearest tenths place. But because we're looking for some bigger accuracy here, let's round this number to 4 spots beyond the decimal, just like we do for trig. That's going to help us come up with the absolute number that we care about. So I'm just going to put in parentheses like trig, because that's kind of the way this is going to play out. All right, so that is our radius. It's kind of big and ugly, but we'll make it pretty in a minute. So we've got our center point, we've got our radius. Let's go ahead and rewrite the equation of a circle. Again, that's x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. And as I've mentioned several times, this is nothing more than a substitution process. It's just important that you substitute the information exactly the way it looks. So let's do that. We'll do x minus our h value, again, is the x coordinate of the center. In this case is 3 squared plus y, and this is minus k. Well, now our k value is a -4, but that's okay. We can always do that, just like we do with the distance formula. We'll do y minus a -4 squared is equal to 3.6056. Big, ugly, yucky number, but let's just square that guy. Okay. All right, so when we do this, we need to clean this up just like we did the last time. And when we do that, we can do, this is just going to stay the same. That's pretty already. X minus 3 squared plus, we don't like this to just say y minus a -4. We want it to say y minus a, we want to make this a positive, right? We do minus a minus, it turns into a positive. So we'll do y plus 4 squared. Whoops, let me make this prettier. Whoopsie daisy. We want that square on the outside, very important. Okay, so squared is equal to, now if I take that value and put it into my calculator, what is going to happen is I'm going to get a number like 13.0000. I want you all at that point to just round that to the prettiest whole number that you can. And generally speaking, you're going to see this is going to be, you know, when you do this at value, it's going to get very, very close to a whole number. We're going to leave it as that whole number because essentially that's exactly what this is going to turn into. All right, this value underneath the radical is actually 13, and if I were to square the square root of something, I just end up with the same number I started with. All right, but just to make this a little easier as we rock through it, I'm going to have you guys just bring it out to the 4th place in the decimal, and that way it'll always look the same. So our final answer, this is it. You know, I'm going to, hey, what's the equation of a circle? This would be the answer I'm looking for. X minus 3 squared plus y plus 4 squared is equal to 13, and you've answered the problem. So let's take a look at the U-try. I'll have you guys work through this one on your own. Again, you're going to need to determine your center, which looks like to be 3, -3, and then rock through the same process of finding the radius. Make sure you pause the video and take the time to do this, and then check your work. Okay, and so coincidentally, you actually end up with the same value for r squared, okay? But the answer should be x minus 3 squared plus y plus 2 squared is equal to 13. That would be the equation of the circle that is drawn here. All right, let's take a look at another example. We've got example number 3. And we have, write the equation of a circle with a center at -4, 0, and a radius of the square root of 10. So they've already given us everything that we had been writing over in our margins, right? We've got our center. That's nice. Our radius is kind of gnarly, but we don't care. We can just show that as negative at the square root of 10. And so I'm going to write the equation of the circle once again. Just keep writing it. And that would be x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. And we are going to do some direct substitution into this problem. So x minus h. In this case, my h value is a -4. Remember, that's the x coordinate of our center. So x minus a -4 squared plus y minus 0 here. That one's simple. Squared is equal to, we have the square root of 10 squared, and probably one of the best things you can do in your calculator is just do second x squared 10, enter. You're going to come up with a gnarly decimal. Then just hit the x squared button again. Okay, and when you do that, what happens is your value just turns back into 10. It's kind of what I mentioned above. If you've got a whole number under a square root and you take that and square the whole thing, you're going to get 10. You have to be a little careful if you do this directly into your calculator. You'll need to use quite a few parentheses and so forth. So be careful. I tell students to just go ahead and do second x squared 10 and then hit the x squared button. That'll get you what you need. So let's see how this looks. We're going to clean this up. We've got x minus a -4. That turns into x plus 4 squared plus y, and again that 0 is just going to bump away. We'll just leave that as y squared is equal to, again, the square root of 10 squared turns into straight up 10. So the answer for write the equation of a circle with center as shown and the radius of square root of 10 is as such. We have, the reason we're doing this is because we don't have a pretty picture to look at anymore, but it doesn't matter. We can just still use the words. All right, so you try to do that. Remember, we've got a diameter given here. You can determine the radius based on what the diameter is. Hopefully we all know how to do that by now. Go ahead and pause the video and check your work. All right, and you should have gotten the equation. X plus 2 squared plus y minus 3 squared is equal to 36. And the reason for the 36 is our radius is 6. Okay.